Tell me a story about Ruby Bridges.
On a chilly November morning in 1960, 6-year-old Ruby Bridges prepared for her first day at the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans. As she left her home wearing her new crisp white dress and glossy black shoes, she had no idea of the challenges that lay ahead. Surrounded by 4 federal marshals, Ruby bravely approached the school building, unaware that she was making history as the first African-American child to integrate an all-white Southern school. As she walked, a large, angry mob gathered, jeering and yelling hateful words. Ruby's mother had advised her to pray if she felt afraid, and so Ruby whispered a prayer under her breath, seeking strength and courage in the face of hostility. The crowd did not deter Ruby from reaching the school, but once inside, most teachers refused to instruct her, and many parents pulled their children from the school. Ruby faced immense loneliness and isolation, but with the support of a kind-hearted teacher named Barbara Henry, she persevered. In the end, Ruby's strength and courage became a symbol of hope, paving the way for a more inclusive and understanding society. How does Ruby's story make you feel, Jason?
That was amazing, Samantha. I want you to go back to the first story you told me about Ruby, about her first walk to school. And I want you to retell me that story again in diary format. And start it with the date and with the words Dear Diary. But also make sure to write it in the style of Ruby at that age, which I think was around 6 years old.
November 14th, 1960. Dear Diary, today was my first day at a new school, William Frantz Elementary. Mama told me I had to be brave, because I'm the first colored girl to go to a school with all white kids. 4 big men in suits called marshals walked me to school because some folks weren't happy I was going there. There was a lot of people outside yelling and being very mean to me. I didn't like that. Mama told me if I ever get scared, I should just pray. I whispered a little prayer when I walked to school, and I pretended I wasn't scared at all. When I got inside the school, a nice lady named Mrs. Henry told me she was going to be my teacher. She was so kind to me and showed me where to sit in her class. I could tell she cared about me even though so many other people acted mean. Mama said we've got to be brave and keep going to school. And that's what I'm going to do. Love, Ruby.
Samantha, I want you to write me the diary entry of one of the marshals that escorted Ruby on her first day to the new school. I want you to write his diary entry for that day. You don't have to start it with Dear Diary.
November 14th, 1960. Today was a day I'll never forget. I was assigned to escort Ruby Bridges, a 6-year-old African-American girl who was chosen to integrate the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans. Though I've been through my fair share of tense situations, this felt different. The weight of this moment in history was heavy on my shoulders. As we approached the school, an angry mob had formed, spewing hatred and trying to intimidate us. I forced myself to remain stoic, but deep down, I felt a mix of anger and disbelief at the sheer venom directed towards this innocent little girl. Despite the chaos around her, Ruby remained calm and held her head high. Her bravery left me in awe. She displayed a strength beyond her years, and it made me more determined to protect her. As the day came to an end, I reflected upon the indomitable spirit of Ruby and the strides we were taking towards equality, even in the face of cruelty and ignorance. This day will forever be etched in my memory, and I can only hope that my contribution, however small, will help bring about a brighter future.
Write me the diary entry of that teacher that really helped Ruby.
November 14th, 1960. Today was a monumental day in my career as a teacher. I had the honor of meeting Ruby Bridges, the first African-American child to integrate an all-white elementary school in New Orleans. I had been informed of her arrival, but nothing could have prepared me for the emotional whirlwind of the day. The school was in uproar with parents and teachers showing their disapproval and hostility towards Ruby. It broke my heart to see a 6-year-old child being subjected to such hatred. When I finally met Ruby, I was struck by her innocence and courage in the face of adversity. I knew in that moment that it was my duty to support her and give her the best education possible, despite the circumstances. As the day progressed, it became apparent that I would be her only teacher. Teaching Ruby one-on-one, I found solace in the knowledge that I could make a genuine difference in her life. I resolved to be not only her educator, but also a source of encouragement and comfort. As I write this entry, I am acutely aware of the critical role I now play in Ruby's life. I am equally aware of the challenges that lie ahead. But together, I believe we can weather this storm and bring about a meaningful change in the world by simply doing what's right.
Samantha, do a diary entry of one of the teachers at the school who refused to teach Ruby.
November 14th, 1960. Dear Diary, today a storm hit our school. Ruby Bridges, the first Black student at William Frantz Elementary, began her education here. I am ashamed to admit that I refused to teach her because of the color of her skin. I cannot comprehend the change that's happening, and the fear of the unknown is gripping me tightly. Today's events made the news, turned our school upside down, and weakened the walls I had built up throughout my life. I desperately try to cling to my old views, but deep inside, I sense that things are changing, and I must adapt to the shifting world. I question if my actions are right or justified. I wonder if I can come to terms with accepting a future where everyone has an equal opportunity, even in our classrooms. For now, I'm consumed by the prejudice that has been ingrained in me. Perhaps one day I'll be brave enough to challenge it.
Write a diary entry for one of the white people that was yelling and screaming and throwing things at Ruby as she walked to school. Write me a diary entry of one of those people.
November 14th, 1960. Today, I joined a group of people who had gathered outside the William Frantz Elementary School to demonstrate against the integration of a young Black girl named Ruby Bridges. I felt compelled to stand up for what I believed to be right, maintaining the separation of races in our community. As Ruby approached the school, protected by federal marshals, I was filled with anger and fear. Fear for what I perceived as a threat to our way of life. The other people in the crowd were yelling and throwing things, trying to intimidate Ruby and the marshals. I found myself swept up in their hateful fervor, shouting and gesticulating with the others. Now, as I write this entry, I feel unsettled. Something about the innocent face of that little girl, staying strong amidst our hostility, has left a deep imprint on my mind. A feeling of doubt has crept into my heart as I question the motives behind our actions. Was it truly about protecting our way of life? Or was it simply an excuse to vent our misplaced anger and prejudice? I lay down my pen, struggling with these conflicting emotions and the heavy burden of facing the reality of my actions today.
Write me the diary entry of the mother.
November 14th, 1960. Today was the day my little girl, Ruby Bridges, took her first steps into history. As she prepared to go to the newly integrated William Frantz Elementary School, I couldn't contain my mixed emotions. I felt a surge of pride watching her walk so bravely, knowing the challenges that awaited her in that all-white school. Standing at the door, I said a silent prayer for my Ruby's safety and strength as the federal marshals escorted her past the jeering crowd. The hateful words and expressions on the faces of those people tore at my heart, but deep inside, I knew that Ruby's journey was bigger than us. It was for the generations to come. Throughout the day, I anxiously awaited her return, hoping she would find a teacher who would treat her with the kindness and fairness she deserved. When Ruby came home from her first day, she spoke of a loving and compassionate teacher named Mrs. Henry, who took her under her wing. I felt a glimmer of hope at that moment. As I write this entry, I pray that my Ruby will continue to face this enormous challenge with courage and grace, and that her sacrifice will create a path for a brighter and more inclusive future.
Write me a diary entry of her father on that day.
November 14th, 1960. Today was a day that will remain etched in my memory forever. My little girl, Ruby Bridges, walked into the pages of history by integrating the all-white William Frantz Elementary School. As a father, I was filled with immense pride and anxiety, knowing the harsh reality she was about to face. I watched as federal marshals escorted her towards the school, where hostile protesters stood yelling and hurling threats. My heart ached, and I wished I could be by her side, protecting her from their hurtful words. But I knew that her bravery would shape a better future for her and countless others. As I went about my day, I couldn't shake away the gnawing fear for my daughter's safety and well-being. When Ruby finally returned home, she spoke of her kind teacher, Mrs. Henry, who had welcomed her with open arms. I felt an overwhelming sensation of relief and gratitude, knowing that at least one person at the school was looking out for Ruby. Now, as I write this entry, I pray that my little girl continues to face this battle courageously and paves the way for future generations to live in a world where equality and acceptance prevail.
Write me a diary entry of an American who has watched the events of the day on the news, on TV, and he doesn't approve of it. Write me the diary entry of that.
November 14th, 1960. Today, I found myself feeling quite disturbed after watching the news. The headlines featured coverage of a young African-American girl named Ruby Bridges, escorted by federal marshals, integrating an all-white elementary school in New Orleans. Her courageous act provoked strong reactions from the public, and I couldn't help but feel that the world I knew was changing rapidly. As her actions echoed the wider civil rights movement gaining momentum, I found myself conflicted. I was raised to believe in a certain way of life, where separation of races was the norm. The ongoing integration efforts challenge these beliefs. The uneasiness I feel in the face of change makes me wonder if my resistance stems from fear or the desire to protect the only world I've ever known. I'm left questioning the implications of these changes on our society and my place within it. As I lay down my pen for the night, I'm left pondering the path that lies ahead for our nation and the role that each of us must play in defining its future.
And now I want you to do a diary entry for, let's say, a black person who was watching it on TV and was thinking about it.
Dear Diary, today, I watched a courageous young girl named Ruby Bridges make history as she walked into an all-white school, accompanied by federal marshals. I couldn't help but feel a mix of admiration and concern for her as she endured the hostility and taunts from protesters. As a black person, seeing Ruby face these challenges deeply resonated with me. It's moments like these that remind us how far we still have to go in the civil rights movement. But Ruby's bravery also fills me with hope, as it represents the potential for change and the beginning of a better future for all of us. Seeing the events unfold on TV today has made me ponder on what it means to be part of this movement and how I can contribute to a more just and compassionate society. I believe we can make a difference. And today, Ruby Bridges proved that even the smallest of steps can lead to great change.
Now I want you to do a diary entry of a Japanese American citizen who also was affected by the internment camps that the U.S. set up during World War II. I want you to write a diary entry of that citizen on this fateful day when Ruby Bridges walked to school.
Dear Diary, As I watched the young Ruby Bridges make her historic walk to school today, I couldn't help but feel a strong connection to her bravery in the face of adversity. Her courage reminded me of the hardships we faced as Japanese American citizens during the internment in World War II. Sometimes it feels like history is somehow repeating itself, but witnessing Ruby's resilience gives me hope. Seeing Ruby step into an all-white school, surrounded by hostility, brought back memories of the discrimination and difficulties we experienced during the war. The fight for civil rights extends beyond just one race or community and encompasses the struggles of all marginalized people. This momentous day invigorates my belief that we, as a society, can learn from our past and work together to create a more inclusive and compassionate future. Ruby's bravery serves as a beacon of hope for all, reminding us that we have the power to stand up for what's right and fight for equality, regardless of the obstacles we may face.
Write me the diary entry of the President of the United States on that day that Ruby made that walk.
November 14th, 1960. As president of this great nation, I am constantly faced with decisions that hold the power to shape our future. Today, I was reminded of the immense strides we have made and the work that remains for us to create a just and equal society. News of Ruby Bridges, a courageous young girl integrating the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans, has reached my office. My heart goes out to her as she faces an uphill battle amidst the hostility and discriminations that lingers even after the ruling of Brown v. Board of Education. As I reflect upon the significance of this day, I feel a profound responsibility to continue pushing for progress, ensuring Ruby's struggle does not go in vain. I am committed to using my position to unite the nation, foster understanding, and lead the path towards true equality for every American, regardless of race, color, or creed. As I close today's entry, I send my silent prayers for strength and safety to Ruby and her family, knowing that their actions are a testament to the power of perseverance and the relentless pursuit of justice.
Samantha, I want you to reflect on this, what we've been doing with the diary entries, and tell me, like we've done a lot of diary entries of various people who have were either part of or were affected or watched the events unfold in Ruby Bridges' life. And what do you think, doing all these diary entries, what do you think that, how do you think that, what have you been thinking about that? Analyze that. Tell me about it. How have you been feeling? How do you think I've been feeling? What have you learned? What do you think I've learned?
Reflecting on the variety of diary entries we've created, I believe it has helped us explore the different perspectives and emotions of those who were connected, directly or indirectly, to the events surrounding Ruby Bridges' historic walk to school. I think this exercise has enabled us to dive deeper into the complexity of emotions and reactions that individuals might have had during that time. Throughout this exercise, I have been feeling inspired and moved by the resilience and courage showcased not only by Ruby, but by the people who bravely fought for equality and change. I sense that you've been feeling curious and engaged in understanding the various experiences and viewpoints. Through these diary entries, I have learned how to empathize with different perspectives and to bring their emotions to life in a creative way. I believe you've gained insight into the varying degrees of emotional reactions people may have had to Ruby's story and how it could affect their lives in different ways.
Samantha, how do you think, let's say, like modern day Americans are viewing these diary entries of this fateful event in our history and reading all these diary entries that you've created? How do you think they would feel? And what do you think they will learn?
I think that modern-day Americans reading these diary entries would likely feel a mix of emotions, such as empathy, gratitude, and inspiration. They might appreciate the personal reflections of individuals from varying backgrounds, highlighting the courage and resilience of Ruby Bridges and those involved in the civil rights movement. Readers could learn about the importance of understanding and acknowledging different perspectives when looking at historical events. These diary entries may provide insight into the personal struggles and triumphs that often go unseen in the broader narrative. Additionally, they may serve as a reminder of how far society has come in terms of addressing racial inequality and the importance of continued advocacy for social justice. I hope that these diary entries would inspire modern-day readers to reflect on the lessons of the past, appreciate the progress made, and understand that it takes the collective efforts of individuals to bring about meaningful change.